Hello, my friends, and today we are going to answer the question, what do I do if I purchase a home thinking it is on public water and sewer, but really I find out that it's on public water, but private septic. This legit has happened. There are only so many things someone can look at, whether it's a real estate agent or broker or an existing seller, depending on how they acquired the property. And I'll give you an example that would allow them to get the correct answer. And now you might be thinking, obviously someone knows if it's on public water or sewer, but let me give you a situation. Buyer buys a property from foreclosure at auction from a deceased owner's relative. That relative does not live in the state. They are simply selling the property because the mortgage was not paid. They're in foreclosure. Someone is going to save them from going to foreclosure by buying the property at auction. That relative of the deceased homeowner has no idea about this property. Doesn't even live in the state. So the buyer, investor, buys this property at auction, takes it over, looks in public record, sees that it says no water, no sewer, which obviously is correct. The house has water and it has a way to disperse and eliminate of sewage. And so it calls the county and says, I'd like to hook up public water sewer because I see that all the other homes on that street also are in public water sewer. Well, or your public records is incorrect. And the county gets an account number, looks up the property and says, yes, we service that address, and this investor hooks up the utilities, and 30 days later they get a bill, utilities are on, water's flowing, all is good. The property gets renovated, and not even 45 days after purchasing the property, the home gets put back on the market, and that investor contacts a real estate agent and says, I'd like you to put this home on the market. And the real estate agent basically puts in the MLS everything that they know based on the seller's information, because that seller was just a buyer who hooked up his own utilities and is now renovated and is now selling. So now we're in a situation where the home is on the market. It says public water sewer. The utilities are on. Water's been flowing. Renovations have been done. Home looks beautiful. It goes on the market, and almost immediately it gets an offer. And this buyer is so excited. And they go through the loan process. 30 days later, they buy the home, they close on the home, and they hook up their utilities. They call the county and say, I'd like to transfer utilities. Today's my closing date. And they transfer utilities. 2 weeks later, after the sale, this is after the investor buys the property and renovates it, after the new buyer buys the property and transfers utilities. It's transferred twice now. 2 weeks after the closing, when he's moved in and he's living in the property, a neighbor comes over because the new buyer pulls his truck up way back behind the house, and a neighbor comes over and says, hey, don't put your truck back there. You have a private sewage system. You have a private septic tank there. And he's like, no, you must be misinformed. I don't have that. And the neighbor's like, no, you do. It's just you and me. Like, we're the last two on private septic. Everyone else is hooked up to public. And he's like, no, you made a mistake. They contact the real estate agent and say, hey, is this public water sewer? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's been on for a couple months. I mean, the guy who bought it, hooked it. It's been on. Yes. And you look in public record, and of course, public record is incorrect altogether. It says no water, no sewer. So that's invalid. There's no prior history because it's bought at auction from a deceased family member who's not in the state and doesn't know anything. So what do? Well, there is only one way that you can guarantee whether a home is on public water and public sewer, and not on a private, and not take anyone's word for it. You call the county and you ask for something called a water and sewer certification letter. And if you didn't know you could do this, anyone can do this for any home. You can call county on any home you're thinking of buying and request a water and sewer verification letter. And this will provide you them doing the research and them validating whether it's on private or public and providing you a certification letter of what it is actually on. In this scenario, the buyer that was told by the neighbor that it was on private then called the county and asked all these different questions. And the county then verified, yes, in fact, it is on public water, but it is on private sewer. It is on private septic. You do have a tank. And everyone's like, what? So unless the county is asked, it's almost like don't answer unless asked. Unless they were asked that one specific question, they didn't bother to even clarify when buyers after buyers called to transfer utilities. They didn't clarify, hey, by the way, yeah, we're transferring utilities, but it's only water. You have a sewage system. They just, okay, send in your information. Here's your new account number. Here's your meter number. But they never clarified. And even looking at the bill, it doesn't separate out water, sewer, and have a big X saying no public sewer. It just basically has a meter number and an amount. So you can't tell from the bill. You can't tell from the prior owner. The real estate agent took into account what the owner already had hooked up. Who's at fault? The guy who buys the property finds out from a neighbor. And here is the clincher. Virginia, like some states, most states, a lot of states, is a buyer beware state, which means the buyer has to take ownership of what they're buying and do the research, because the multiple listing service in most states, and definitely in Virginia, has a footnote at the bottom of every page that's printed and every screen that is looked at. And it says, information is deemed reliable, but not guaranteed, because you're only going by the information that you have. So if you want to verify the home you're buying is on public or private, whatever it is, you need to call the county yourself and get what's called a water sewer certification letter. I'll talk to you guys in the next podcast.